I did it, clone number one! I solved the greatest mystery of all time! Why people keep giving M. Night Shyamalan money to make movies? What? No, how Iroh got into the spirit world. Hey Subfuries! One of the oldest questions about Avatar The Last Airbender has been about Iroh's affinity for the spirit world. It's an affinity that played some role in his eventual passing on into the spirit world when he was heading towards the end of his life. But how this happened has pretty much always been a mystery. This theory I agonized over for a long time because these shows do not make it easy. But Mishka, our supreme leader, is not a forgiving overlord, are you? All hail Mishka. So I persevered, and here we are. When Uncle Iroh meets Korra for the first time in season 2, he explains to her that
I chose to leave my body behind and come to the spirit world.
Now he never explains how he did this, but the issue with it is obvious. Number 1, humans don't go to the spirit world when they die. Number 2, you can't just pop off there when you feel like it. Number 3, let alone leave your body. It's also worthy of note that Zuko was shocked to hear that his uncle was in the spirit world.
Your uncle was right. It was helpful talking to you.
Wait, you spoke with my uncle?
Yes, in the spirit world.
And on a side note, I know it sounds like he was a real dick to not tell Zuko that he was just popping off to the spirit world, but we'll get to that soon. Iroh's relationship with the spirit world goes right back to the beginning of the series. In the Winter Solstice Part 2, we see him do something that we have seen nobody else do throughout the rest of the series, Aang or Korra. He can see Aang riding Fang in the spirit world, even though they're supposedly invisible. Whatever the magic, I suppose, is, it didn't affect him. We know that many years prior to the series, Iroh went on a personal journey that eventually even took him to the spirit world. Zhao and Iroh talk about it briefly during the Siege of the North.
Tao, the spirits are not to be trifled with.
Yes, I know you fear the spirits, Iroh. I've heard rumors about your journey into the spirit world.
Yes, I know it says rumor, but the creators have essentially confirmed it, and it's way cooler to think that he has done that anyway. Now, before this personal journey, Iroh was a firebending prodigy, a military strategist, and focused on becoming the next Fire Lord. But after his son, Lu Ten, died, leaves from a vine, falling so slow. How do people classify this as a kids show? After Lu Ten died, Iroh abandoned it all, his position in the military, his training to become the next Fire Lord, and he went on a personal journey that would eventually take him to the spirit world. And what happened there on his journey throughout the mortal world and the spirit world changed him in every way. Not like when your friend goes away for Europe for 6 months and they tell you that it changed their entire world view, but they're really just as dumb and materialistic as they... Sorry. So I kept digging deeper, and I nearly gave up on the theory before I remembered that I had seen all of this before with another character. There was one other character in the series who had an affinity for a particular spirit, chose to leave their body before they died, and entered the spirit world. Just like Iroh. Yue had an innate connection to spiritual energy and the feelings of the moon spirit because she had a fragment of the moon spirit inside of her. At the end of the Siege of the North, Yue dumps Sokka in the most vicious of ways and decides she would rather be the moon than his girlfriend. Laura?
Hello?
I need you to answer this question. Would you rather be my girlfriend or the moon?
The moon, obviously.
Okay, bye-bye. Kidding. After the moon spirit is killed by Zhao, Yue gives up her life using that fragment of the moon spirit inside of her to restore it, becoming the moon spirit, fading from the mortal world, and becoming part of the spiritual one. So I went back to watch that scene again and I noticed this.
You have been touched by the moon spirit. Some of its life is in you.
And I began to wonder, what if the reason that Iroh recognizes the moon spirit inside Yue is not merely because he has this affinity for the spirit world, but because, hear me out, he knows what it's like to have part of a spirit inside himself. Because he does. But how do we know this, Tim? Great question, you compost heap of anger management issues. Let's go back to Iroh's journey around the world and into the spirit world. After Iroh returned, he was a changed man, no longer so violent, far less materialistic, way more laid back, and far more focused on family. But that wasn't the most important change. Iroh became wise and learned in the philosophies and cultures and beliefs of the other three nations. He learned their bending styles, about their histories and their spirits. He even became a member of the White Lotus. Now, where in the world could he have possibly gone to find an unbiased, fully detailed record of such things?
Wan Shi Tong's library. It is said to contain a vast collection of knowledge. Wan Shi Tong and his knowledge seekers collected books from all over the world and put them on display for mankind to read, so that we might better ourselves.
So that we might better ourselves? I don't know about you, but that sounds exactly like what Iroh was wanting to do. And in Wan Shi Tong's library, he would have had access to endless records of the other nations, and all the conversation with the spirits that he could want. But the question remains, if Iroh is like Yue, then which spirit became a part of him? Which spirit gave up a part of itself in the same way that the moon spirit gave a fragment of itself to Yue? It's reasonable to assume that Twi, the moon spirit, didn't just give Yue a part of its life force to be kind. Powerful spirits do seem to have something of an ability to see the future, so it's quite possible that it foresaw its death at the hands of Zhao. Giving Yue part of its life force was a form of life insurance. It knew it was going to die, and that was a way to save it. If the same was to happen to Iroh, then we must wonder if it was for a similar reason, that the spirit knew that they were going to die. So I kept looking for an answer to this question, and I was rewatching the episode The Library, where we meet Wan Shi Tong, and I remembered his helpers, the knowledge seekers. Fox spirits that help organize the library and act as something of librarians, though without the look. Now in the episode, I initially thought that there was only one knowledge seeker, but there were actually three. One that we see outside the library, one that we see in the library, and one that helps them find the astronomy room. I figured out that they were different because of their markings. One had a chest of white, one had a patchy chest of greyish brown, and one was entirely brown. Nerd! But this is where things got interesting. In the second season of Korra, Jinora visits Wan Shi Tong's library, where I noticed something curious. I think that those three that we met in the library before are possibly the only ones that Wan Shi Tong has, because they show up again. Well, two of the three show up again. There are only two knowledge seekers in the whole of Wan Shi Tong's library when Jinora goes there. The one with the full chest of white and the one with the patchy chest. The fully brown one is nowhere to be seen. The third knowledge seeker could have easily have met Iroh when he was going on his personal journey and he eventually came to Wan Shi Tong's library. It may well have known that something was going to happen to it, that maybe it was going to die, in a similar way that the moon spirit probably knew that it was going to die. The obvious problem with this is that spirits are usually immortal. Keyword being usually. Twi and La, the moon and ocean spirits, lost their immortality because they chose to become an integral part of the mortal world. They crossed over from the spirit world very near the beginning. After they did that, they became mortal. They could be killed, and I think it's quite possible that Wan Shi Tong and his knowledge seekers did exactly the same. Now, we don't quite know what Roku meant when he said,
They crossed over from the spirit world to the mortal world, very near the beginning.
Because we do know that spirits can enter the mortal world and not lose their immortality. But what we do know is that Wan Shi Tong purposefully built his library in the mortal world, and that he and his knowledge seekers don't have that ethereal look that we see with a number of other spirits. If doing this meant that they became an integral part of the mortal world, like with the moon and the ocean spirits, they would be mortal, and it would explain why one of the knowledge seekers could be killed. Sensing their death, I think that this knowledge seeker gave Iroh a part of itself when he was in Wan Shi Tong's library. So when Iroh says,
I chose to leave my body behind and come to the spirit world,
what he really means is that he took up the mantle of the knowledge seeker, much like Yue took up the mantle of being the moon spirit. This theory would explain a number of things. Firstly, how he just left his body and went into the spirit world. Secondly, it would be a better explanation as to why he could see Fang and Aang. Thirdly, it would explain why he could sense the moon spirit inside of Yue. Fourthly, it would contribute to explaining why he is so wise and learned, because he had the help of the knowledge seekers and all of Wan Shi Tong's Tong's library? I mean, Iroh is precisely the sort of man that a spirit that cared about knowledge and wisdom would want to mantle them. It might also explain why Zuko didn't know that Iroh was in the spirit world. If one of the knowledge seekers had died, it may well have been pretty urgent for Iroh to have replaced them, just like it was urgent for Yue to replace the moon spirit. And finally, it would explain why there are only 2 knowledge seekers when Jinora is there, instead of the 3 that we saw in the earlier season, and why Iroh is close friends with one of them. Boom! I'm done! I'm finished. Oh yeah. Are you proud of me, Mishi? He says no. I should say, like with all theories, it does raise some questions, like why didn't Iroh's physical appearance change when the spirit became a part of him? Like Yue got white hair. Well, it's hard to say, but maybe the change isn't visible. I'll leave that to your imagination. But that's all from me. My question to you, Subfuries, is what is your favorite myth? Achilles, Huli Xing, that we landed on the moon? Let me know down below, and I just want to say thank you so much for 2 things. One is how my last Avatar video on Zahir's philosophy was received. It was just overwhelmingly positive. Thank you so much. I'm really happy that you guys enjoyed it, and I'll make sure that I bring out more stuff like that. Like I've got this video essay on V for Vendetta planned for later this week. Secondly, thank you so much to those in the Subfury community who have bought the official Subfury t-shirt like this featuring Mishka, beautiful art by Iona B. We have raised over $700 for charity now, and that's just incredible for the causes that we chose. A21, which helps stop slavery, and the World Wildlife Fund, which protects animals and their habitats. Being a Subfury means being kind and supportive, and you guys are really showing that you are that. There are links down in the description to go buy one for yourself, possibly as a Christmas gift. I think it's a great idea. They're amazing shirts. Go get one. I love you. In the meantime, I'd love for you to come follow me on my second channel, TwotheFuture. There are links to that down in the description below. It's more vloggy. I talk about any sort of random stuff. You can get to know me and I can get to know you, and as well as that, follow me on Twitter, Wattpad, Facebook, email me stuff at the the address and links in the description below. Stay nerdy, Subfuries, and I'll see you in the future.